Hi everyone, welcome to Procrastination Points Video Snark. This video series isn't an audiobook, it's designed as commentary. This series emphasizes reading and listening comprehension skills. My focus is on reading books, identifying areas that miss the mark, and suggesting ways that they could be reimagined. I'm continuing my read-through of Chromatic by Ashley Bustamante. If you haven't seen the earlier videos, you can find the links below. Chapter 41. Now that the villain is gone, the power leaves Ava. Her magic dress shifts into the yellow dress from the start of the series. They go back to where everybody else is, where Ava announces that Jaden is dead. Although she anticipated the benefactors would continue to fight, she's a bit surprised when they don't. Instead, Ivan and his men begin to round them all up. Whatever they went through with Celine and then Jaden was probably worse than we could have imagined. At this point, Ava is content to hand things over to Ivan to finish taking care of business. As they start to head back to Porter's, points out that there are dandelions popping up. Nikki and Blake encourage him to hurry up, but Ava insists on being outside in the fresh air for a bit longer. She sits down on the grass, which is starting to come up now that the barrier keeping things frozen is gone. Sits with her, and they simply exist in the moment. Love my Snark? I also offer book editing services where I bring that same approach to your writing. If you'd prefer a more traditional approach, I also offer professional book editing services. You can contact me on any of my social media platforms if you have further questions about my editing services, including pricing options. Chapter 42. Now that the war is over, there's nothing left to do except to pick up the pieces. Shapers help to rebuild, augmenters heal the wounded, and a few mentalists show up to help boost people's spirits and to help imagine how things should look once more. A handful of the named characters go to the Canary War Museum. The one in book one where Ava went to, where she started to realize that things were not as they seemed about her parents. Now the curator is letting them expand everything and to add in the names of the mentalists killed. Those names are gathered up by Porter thanks to his immaculate record keeping. Alan puts his wooden canary down by the memorial where his parents are listed. He tells Ava that he wishes that things could have been different, but that she could have met his parents. Then they all start to plant yellow flowers until Ava realizes that it's getting late and that somebody from their group has to go to the benefactor form classes. Sammy seems a little eager to go, and Elm says that he thinks that somebody has caught Sammy's eye. Later, they all attend the color initiation ceremony. Dr. Iris has taken over as the headmaster, which Eva says is her doing healing work in a different sort of way. Porter comes in and apologizes for being late. He's been helping to reunite the stolen mentalist children with their families, which is obviously taking up a lot of his time. As usual, he's eager to continue taking notes for future generations. The ceremony begins with most of the kids being shapers or augmenters. Ava is starting to wonder if Celine had been successful in breeding out the yellow. But then one little boy lights up the cube with yellow. His parents, both seemingly augmenters, are shocked but eventually start to smile. Gives him a yellow gemstone necklace. Dr. Iris welcomes him to Bright Academy. Offhandedly tells Ava that he can't wait to see what world that their children are going to face now that everything is back to normal again. Not gonna lie, this scene got to me a little with how sweet that it was. After all of the incoming children are all sorted out, they then begin a second ceremony. One to formally acknowledge the mentalist children who were robbed of not only who knows how many years of their lives, but also of even something so normal as being formally acknowledged as a mentalist by the government. Although I'd also like to argue that these kids will need a lifetime of therapy following what they went through. Finally, when all the children have been sorted, Ava gives Elma a dual blue-yellow gemstone necklace. He comments that he is going to calm down now that he's a proper member of society, but Ava says that she'd be a bit disappointed if he stopped causing trouble completely. If you're interested in reading my own stories, you can purchase my spicy short stories as well as 2 full-length novels on Amazon. I also frequently run flash sales on my stories. If you're not already following me on Reddit, I recommend doing so to stay updated on when I offer free content. Reddit is currently the only place where I'm advertising myself these days. Chapter 43. Sometime later, school starts back up again at Prism. Ava and the others were given honorary degrees, although the younger of the rebels, like Brie, chose to return to finish up their education in a more traditional sense. But now Ava has graduated from student to professor. She and Alma are to be co-teachers on a lesson about white magic, but when he doesn't show up, she starts to panic. Then reminds herself that things are different in Magus now, that there's no reason for them to fear for their lives. As Ava looks around their classroom, she thinks about how she'd once met Elm in this exact room when he climbed in through the window. She's forced to start the lesson on her own when the bell rings and he still isn't there. Halfway through her introduction about the class, the window opens and Elm makes a dramatic entrance, because we wouldn't have it any other way. Later, the group of named characters comes together to celebrate the lives of Blake's parents. He thanks them all for coming out and wishes that his parents could have gotten to know all of them the way that he did. They set blue lantern boats out onto the water, and Elm uses green magic to light them and send them on their way. Patreon has recently introduced free memberships. By joining, you'll be able to enjoy the same content I post on Tumblr, now conveniently available on Patreon. Patreon supporters can enjoy even more book Snark starting at only $1 a month. Plus, Patreon now offers a 1-week free trial. Don't miss it. Big shout out to Phoebe for supporting me on Patreon already. Also, huge thanks to Josh and Mark for making a one-time donation. If you want to hear your name on my video next week, either support me on Patreon or make a one-time donation. Epilogue. Several years later, Ava and Elm have a daughter named Tansy. They wrap up a game of Zap Blaster in which Elm was in blue so that he could play with their daughter, indicating that she was a shaper. As they leave, they discuss taking visiting dignitaries to play the game, which is only the second hint in the series that this does take place in the real world, and the first acknowledgement that the real world continued to exist outside of all that was happening inside of Magus. Also, some minuscule hope from the author that there will be at least a spin-off series or something, but if I were you, I wouldn't hold my breath about that. That is insider information that you can take to the bank. As they walk home, they pass a lot of houses with sunflowers planted around them. Elm said that he had told Ava that there would be a lot more sunflowers in her future, and Ava tells the readers that sunflowers have become the unofficial flower of Magus. They also say that Blake and Nikki are now married and have a baby, and that Kato and Blanca are soon to get married themselves. All is well in the world of Ava Locke Ridley. So, final thoughts time. Overall, an exceptionally mid-series. I've read better, but I've also read much, much worse. The ending of this was kind of questionable. It's like the author wrote herself into a corner and was uncertain of how to get herself out of it. So she wrote in that bizarre Mary Sue magic powers thing. Even as temporary as it was, it felt like it came out of nowhere, resolved everything way too quickly, and for what? I would have rather that this book had been delayed a bit simply so that the ending could have been tightened up. Mainly, I'm baffled over the inclusion of the Melans because they were mentioned once, never showed back up again until the end point, and then Ava snapped her fingers and immediately fixed everything. What exactly was the point of that? It could have been cut and literally nothing would have changed at all. The ending with Jaden could have been him and Ava fighting by the cliff with him as a human. There was no point to the mutation business at all. Now that I can put the entire series into perspective, things did not really improve as far as world building depth go. They talked some about these magical batteries that the mentalists were powering, but what exactly was it that they even did? How did any of this work? Look, I'm not expecting an engineering diagram from the author, but what I am looking for is some sort of second-tier explanation for a lot of stuff. Especially stuff like what it was that was going on in the rest of the world. It would probably have been better if the mentions of stuff like the Bible and Narnia were simply left out completely, especially since it never went anywhere in the end. And this is really more a nitpick from me, but this book is supposed to be a clean romance, meaning no hanky-panky. Yeah, there were long stretches where Ava and Elm were alone together. Maybe this is part of the naivety of the author, but come on, don't tell me that a couple who had recently gotten engaged, who were alone in the woods, didn't decide to keep themselves warm at night. Right. Overall, it was a really interesting concept. I did see some other book that had used color magic since the start of this series, so it's not exactly half as original as I had thought that it was. But at the same time, exactly one book, it's hardly Orphan Boy discovers he's the lost heir as far as tropes go. The ideas were there, but going back to how shallow that the world building was, it never quite reached the heights that I think that it could and should have. But I did also enjoy the constant communication between all of the characters. The one trope that I hate the most is miscommunication, when a problem could be resolved within minutes if people would simply talk to one another. This never happened here. I also appreciate how Blake never actually became a love interest, or anybody else besides Gotta give the author props for not including an unnecessary love triangle. I have also got to give the author a round of applause for actually brutally killing off her main villain on page. I didn't think that we'd have a gruesome death, but here we are. And not one, but 3 on-page deaths in this. Congrats on doing it. Anyway, as usual, I will be taking another break so that I can focus on completely finishing up the next book before I start making videos and posting. It does wonders to my mental health to not have such a strict upload schedule every week. I haven't decided about when I'm going to be reading for that next, but stick around for updates about when I will be returning. Until I see you again, guys. Thanks for watching. New Book Snark videos go live every Monday with occasional extras during the week. Your support means so much, even if it's not financial. Watching my videos, subscribing, and liking, and sharing them with friends all go a long way in helping my channel grow. If you've already caught up with all of my videos, you can go to Facebook, WordPress, Tumblr, or free on Patreon for my main Book Snarks, always free and updated every morning. A link tree for everything is posted below. See you next week, guys!